Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
We're going to talk about journalists and journalists working for video game sites and pop culture sites potentially effing around and finding out what happens when you are a problem and you get fired for being a problem, and then surprise, nobody wants to hire you. But
yeah, shocker.
Shocker there, but the whole landscape is changing, right? So the jobs are fewer and further between, and we've discussed this at length. Aftermath had a whole big thing up on gamers, how they're a gamers group, they're getting rid of websites, and we're going to talk about Alyssa Mercante. Remember her?
Yeah. Yes, I remember her. She kept going around basically stirring the pot and then getting upset when people gave it back.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about how apparently now she's working as a waitress, and like, look, this is the future for a lot of these people. I'm going to be honest.
There's nothing wrong with working as a waitress.
No,
it's
not
just
at all.
that, her behavior and comments means she's like blaming everybody else and learned nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about Comics Beat. Remember Comics Beat?
Yes.
Comics Beat, Heidi McDonald lamenting that they will no longer have access to numbers, which was the main reason why people still went to that website. Just kind of the whole thing. And I talked about this yesterday in one of our Minus podcasts. I said the whole thing is imploding, like all of it. The whole, like this whole nerdosphere, geekosphere thing that we've been witness to, unfortunately, over the last 10, 15 years. It's all kind of imploding, and a lot of these websites popped up during that time. A lot of them were bankrolled by venture capital or bankrolled by Hollywood studios, thinking this is where the money was going to be, and there is no money. There's just sadness, disappointment, and internet drama. So
it's funny because it's true.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you will get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
So I saw this Pimp Master Broda. How's it going? He put this up, and look, I don't really pay much attention to Alyssa Mercante. We've discussed her before. God, I don't even know where to start. She worked for Kotaku. She worked, I thought, for Rolling Stone.
I thought she was working for Rolling Stone.
I thought she was too, but maybe she's not, because she says she's looking for freelance work. She's been very combative. She said she was going to wanted to physically fight people. She did interviews. She did an interview with, I remember, one farming sim dev, and turned the whole thing into like a hit piece on people who wanted boobies in video games and grums and all the people she had an issue with online. And she basically used Kotaku as her personal blog to attack people on Twitter she didn't like.
Yeah, it seemed like she wanted to stir the pot, sling crap and everything else. And then when people would get mad, obviously, and they would call her out or come back at her, then it was like, oh, I'm being attacked and being harassed.
Yeah.
And everything else. And it's like, but you kind of started it.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, she basically stirred the pot. Now, and then she got gone, and people were like, "Oh, well, we don't know if she got fired." Well, it sounds to me like she got fired. And I'm gonna tell you,
we don't know, but it does sound like
it sounds like it. Then there's a lawsuit. She's apparently trying to sue. It was Smash JT, is another YouTuber, for defaming her. Because she said in one of her tweets that she did sex work or something, and he kind of threw it back in her face, and then she went to, I'm gonna be honest, I don't follow the day-to-day drama with any group of people. Like, people are like, well, didn't you hear about this, and didn't you hear about so-and-so and not liking so-and-so? I'm like, no. We do our videos. We talk about what we want to talk about, and then we basically walk away.
We need someone to have a website with a sheet, that's updated 5 times a day, saying who's mad at whom.
Yeah, and, right. Who hates who
what
today?
The drama, who did what, so we can follow a flow chart. Because half the time I have no idea. So.
And then Sally said you're stinky, and you're a stinky poo-poo pants. But anyway, there's a lawsuit going on. I don't think she's got any chance, because they're going to argue.
No, because she had made the comments.
She made the comments herself, and she's technically, because she was a journalist, and she technically is a public figure. So you actually, it's harder to prove defamation. I know this. It's harder to prove defamation if you're a public figure. You know, so
especially since there was receipts too. So
right.
you know.
And if she's not getting work, it's because nobody wants to work with her. Now,
That's just it. They don't want to work with you, and that was your own doing because you were out there causing trouble.
Why would these outlets? Well, one, you know, they're losing money like crazy, so they probably don't have the money to pay anybody, right? But why would they not hire you? Well, Kotaku is owned by Geo Media, and Geo Media had a high-profile lawsuit with one of their writers that decided it was a wise idea to call a child a racist and double and triple down on that. And then it got so bad that they sold Deadspin, but they're still going to have to pick up the pieces. So, yeah, they're probably looking at people like Alyssa Mercante, and they're probably like, yeah, you're saying some dumb shit that's going to get us. And she is being sued, by the way. There's a suit or countersuit, whatever the hell's going on. She's in a legal kerfuffle, and they're like, yeah, we don't want to deal with this. You're trouble. So anyway,
yeah, for whatever reason, she's not there.
For whatever
anymore.
reason,
and I thought she was at Rolling Stone, but now she's saying she's a waitress, and like it really doesn't seem like she learned much.
Yes. So yeah, so this is on Blue Sky, which I don't follow people on like pretty much everybody that was a pain in the ass on Twitter went over to Blue Sky, and then they're chasing off whatever normal people were over on Blue Sky because they don't want to deal with this shit either. But she said she's walking to a restaurant shift and feeling like she's 25 again. What a life, am I right? Hey, it happens. It happens to people. There are people that are on top of there are people that were huge celebrities, right? They were huge celebrities, and you're like, whatever happened to so-and-so? And then you find out they're like working in an auto parts store or something, right?
It happens. It happens to everybody.
You know, you do what you got to do. So fucked that I lost a job. So she did get fired, I guess. And I'm struggling to get a new one because of a year-plus long harassment campaign.
There no ownership here.
No, that's what's shocking about this is like, no, you actually started it, kept it going, and decided to bring a suit against a YouTuber. I'm a human being. Not having health insurance is scary. Moving apartments in the midst of all this. Yeah, it's a huge financial strain. I was doing my job well before all of this happened.
No, you weren't. That's the point. Like, if you were doing your job well, you'd still be employed. You weren't. You were causing all kinds of drama, unnecessary drama. That was, you're probably putting a negative light onto certain people that hired you.
They're not going to take, like, again, these journalists for years thought that there were no consequences to them just going out and attacking the chuds or whatever. They were actually getting fist bumps from their peers for it. Now that the companies that own them have to clean up the fucking mess, and it could cost them millions of dollars. I don't know what this Deadspin lawsuit's going to wind up costing them, but it's, millions of dollars. Yeah. It's like, yeah, she's
like, the cruelest people got what they wanted, and most people in the industry just let it happen. No, see, again, here's what happened. You're out there telling people to fight you. You're out there deliberately trying to stir up crap to get views. And what happened is people got tired of it, gave it back to you. And now they're the cruelest people. Thing is, in some cases, people didn't deserve it, but you did. And then you're out there doing that. And then you're like, and most people in the industry let it happen because, one, you're a nothing burger. And two, they knew to stay far away because they knew what you were doing was not going to end well.
I would have had a talking to with you if you were out there causing problems.
We did do videos basically telling you might want to stop.
Well, they were trying to pivot Kotaku. I remember they're trying to pivot it to like, okay, fine, we're just going to do game guides now because your hot takes, they're not bringing traffic and you're bringing us potential problems. Actually, what we talked about this before, we're like, it's going to get to a place where, if there are any publications left to freelance for, where I am wondering if the publishers aren't going to have these people carry their own liability insurance. So if they say something stupid, it's like, okay, fine, you're a contractor. You want to be responsible for that? You can be responsible for it. You carry your own insurance policy. You pay several $100s or $1,000 a month. And you can say where the fuck you want to. And then if somebody sues, they sue you and not us because I don't want to be responsible for it.
And it's like, she's like, thank you to everyone supporting me and giving me the freelance work they can spare. I stand by everything that I have done throughout my career. See, you've learned nothing. And believe that sticking up for yourself, other people should never hinder your work. You weren't sticking up. That's just it. You were painting it as if you were sticking up for people. But what you really were doing was just trying to generate, outrage to get views is what you were trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and that, to be fair, a lot of journalists do that. A lot of outlets, tell their people to do it.
They pay by the view. Yeah.
You do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. I get that. But like you were like deliberately going out of your way to just try to cause trouble for people or try to like, call this person out. And you really had a hate boner for Grums and you went out of your way on that one. So of course it bit you in the butt.
Yeah, John Douglas here. She was not doing my job well. She was actively contributing to the downfall of gaming journalism when out of her way to make gamers hate her. Actions meet consequences. Who's this Geeky Sparkles? She looks a lot like
I don't know.
you.
She's like a bitch.
She was going after people. I like spicy bitches sometimes. She was
You
going
say
after
that now.
She was going after people and acting like a grade A crapster, and now she's going on about how people attacked her. That's always the case. It's always like, I was just minding my own business, and then all these bigots and Nazis just started attacking me for no reason whatsoever. And look, there's a laundry list a mile long of all the interactions that she has had with other internet personalities. It's, she is definitely not blameless. And again, the company owner is going to look at her and be like, yeah, you are a massive liability. Like you just do not know when to keep your mouth shut, and you're going to get us into a lawsuit. Right. Ma here says, I feel like if I publicly didn't say half the stuff she said, I would have lost my job a long time ago. Yeah. Sad to see she still thinks her demise was everybody else's fault but hers.
And it is solely on her. I mean, look, I get standing up for people if there's a good reason, and people that are like just going to be mad about stuff are going to be mad about stuff, and they're going to find reasons, even if they aren't real reasons or whatever. Like this whole narrative with the gaming, especially when it comes to women, can be a problem. But like she went out of her way to just try to antagonize and be like, neater, fight me and stuff like that. And then when people gave it back to her, oh, I'm being oppressed. It's like, that's my job. It's like, maybe if you didn't, maybe you just reported on gaming news and didn't try to make it like, you're going to own the chuds. It wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. People said it's right out of the Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian playbook. And that was what they did. They basically, played the victim card.
Yeah. But which one was it that walked it back now? Is it one of those two?
Which one was no, it wasn't one of those two.
It wasn't one of those two. Okay.
Oh, wait, maybe it wasn't Nia Sarkeesian. It might have been. No.
One of the two were walking it back and being like, hey, everybody needs to be friends now. I forget which one.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think
they all blend together.
They all blend together. They're all kind of like the same. I just have the same like smug journalist in my head that like, it's kind of like the thumbnails I use when I always show the blue-haired cat-eye glasses journalist is like, I'm trying to remember who it was off the... Oh, Brianna Wu. It was
Brianna Wu. That's right.
It was Brianna Wu.
Okay,
yeah, somebody else. They all blend together. They do, but it's like just throw them in a pile of Brianna Wu's like saying stuff that's getting them in trouble too.
Yeah, but basically it's like, hey, when you go back to center, and how dare you?
Yeah. And that's just it. And that's kind of what happened with like Bill Maher and stuff too. People are like, he's an alt-right Nazi. He's like, no, I'm not. I just want things to go back to normal. Like, what the hell? Vera Dark wanted to box her and she wouldn't.
I do remember that. Yeah. Offer took her up on it and she wouldn't answer. So that she was just using it for attention. Then she was like, you just want to fight me for attention for your own self or something. I forget what it was, but it's like, but you offered. And then when someone took you up on it, you tried to spin it that they were trying to get attention off you. And it's like, but no one really cares who you are.
Yeah, SD says, didn't she get a job at Rolling Stone? Yeah, she did. Well, apparently she's not working there now.
Or freelance only.
Or is it so bad that these websites are not paying people at all? And
I think that they're just dropping people, and I don't necessarily think it's all because of this, but I do think it's like there's no money, so
there's no money. They're not
going to keep somebody around who's going to cause them more trouble.
Yeah, that's just it. And again, we cover this gamers group, the Mary Sue. They seem to have like one full-time writer over there now. Is that there's no damn money in these websites anymore, and it's so weird because a lot of these sites sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean,
well, no one could foresee that Google was going to do what they did.
Well, that's a whole thing too. Yeah, because now Google is they're all like, oh yeah, our AI search is doing really well. We're making all kinds of money.
Oh, I'm sure they are, because you're taking all you're saving everybody and taking all the money.
Yeah, we don't have to share. We don't have to share anything. So anyway, let's talk about Heidi McDonald. She's been lamenting the death of comic book journalism, and this is the one reason that people actually came to her website was for this book scan stuff, right? So, Brian Hibbs would do the whole analysis and he'd break it down every year, like here's how the stuff's selling, whatever. But it's over. So she said for the last 8 years, Comics Beat has been the home of Brian Hibbs' book scan analysis, a detailed look at graphic novel sales that breaks down the best sellers and publishing trends of both manga and traditional comics publishing. It's been the most important thing we publish here at The Beat. It has been an incredible resource for the industry.
Incredible resource for views and money. Okay.
Yeah, right.
I corrected the statement. Continue.
Well, really, it's about the only reason anybody goes to The Beat anymore is like, oh yeah, well, we can get.
It's not a resource for the industry, though. I mean, it's just a resource for discussion, but it's like that people that still have access to book scans can get that information anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Like, in the industry, have that resource available.
I think it's basically industry pundits or freelancers, because the publishers, if you're a big publisher, you're going to pay for services like that. And you're going to, how many books you sold, right? You just don't. I think this is all a game of keep away. I mean, right now, like nobody seems to know how many comics are actually being sold. I think personally, that's by design, because if it actually came out how few comics were being sold, the corporate owners of like Marvel and DC would probably just pawn them off. They'd be like, it's not even worth it. Like, we're only selling 15,000 copies on average of a book.
Well, that might be part of it. They're downsizing, but they don't want the information out there so much. So you could be publishers or even being like, hey, we don't want this out there. I don't know. But basically, they were working with this Kristen McLean.
Yeah, and she's not there. She got moved.
She got moved, and they downsized the departments, and now they're not giving them the data. They're not getting access.
Okay, so giving them the data. You can pay for the data. Did anybody consider that? Like you can, to the best of my knowledge, you can pay, and that's the problem. You can pay to have access.
If you have access and you pay, does that mean you can share the data?
I don't think you're allowed to share the data. It's basically for internal review.
Because it says they could publish the top 20 books of the year and could analyze it without putting it on chart form.
Yeah.
So that sounds like there was a caveat that is no longer there.
Yeah, because they said that she's been moved to a different part of BookScan. It's been reorganized and downsized. Well, welcome to the club. Everything's getting downsized, and they're no longer going to allow us access to the data. Brian did his analysis for more than 20 years. Yeah, he did. They used to do it on, I think it was on Publishers Weekly. That's where the Beat started, and then she took it. It wasn't worth it for them, I guess, to have a comics blog, so she took it back and did it herself. Before doing it in partnership with BookScan directly, he used leaked information. Unfortunately, can't you just pay for it? Unfortunately, we've also been told that if we use leaked information, we face legal action.
So yeah, it's basically a case of where you can pay for the access, but you can't share it.
Oh my God.
They might not even let you pay for it anymore.
Well, no, there it is. I thought about taking up a collection
there you go.
to purchase the data, but I'm told it would cost mid-5 figures, something I don't think anybody in the industry could finance. Well, Marvel and DC can afford it, I'm sure.
I'm sorry, but mid-5 figures is stupid.
Some of these so and I think I talked a little bit about this before. I did work for a company that was government adjacent, and we did sell data. We sold data. And since we were selling mostly to Fortune 500 companies and to the government, some of our subscriptions were incredibly, thousands and thousands of dollars a month. Because they would pay it and they wouldn't even flinch, right? It was nothing to them. It's not like, $20 a month and you can say, no, you add a couple of zeros to that. And that's what it costs, because they know they might only have 100 customers that can pay it, and they got to hire a staff to get that data, but it's worth it to them to have that data.
So they're getting the data from that. But I'm like, couldn't you technically use AI to go out and find find data estimates, say, it's not 100%, but this is what we're estimating based on our, research. You could do that.
AI bad.
But I know, exactly.
AI bad.
Plus, it wouldn't necessarily be 100% accurate either. But, I'm just saying, technically, you could.
Yeah.
But they already got threatened of legal action if they use leaks.
Yeah. So yeah, she said she's demoralized. We're trying to work with BookScan to get reports of mankind. She actually was talking about before the death of comics journalism. It's so weird that this happens like right now. The death of pop culture journalism, comics journalism. She talked about how HiveWorks was imploding. Snicker, snicker, snicker. It's just, everything, it does feel like everything is collapsing. And I think a lot of it I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of it shouldn't have been here in the first place.
Well, it's interesting because they're talking about how, oh, well, as it ends, the comic industry is left with less information. What do we need it? I mean, then tell the publisher to self-report, but they're not going to. And then
Yeah.
they're like, but ICV2 still has their charts via BookScan. How come ICV2 still has theirs?
Um,
And we always use ICV2 anyway. I don't very rarely use
because
the Beat for anything.
Yeah, they're actually the most like number centric, I think, website out there, and they have a lot of people that subscribe to them. So I'm sure they probably have some revenue coming in that they can pay for this sort of thing. You know, but yeah, I mean, you're not gonna be able to just kind of.
Well, for now they can pay for it.
For now, yeah, and I don't know. I mean, because ICV2, they're okay. So ICV2 covers mostly. Again, everything's crumbling. They cover the the comic book direct market, and tabletop gaming, and both of those things are in deep shit right now. Like, so I don't know. I mean, there could come a day where ICV2 is not even around anymore because
that's usually where I go for information is ICV2.
Yeah.
I very rarely go to the comics beat for it. The beat.
Prana direct market solutions, culling single issues. Yeah, so nobody knows how many comics are being sold. They do. They're not telling the public because they don't want it getting back, I believe, to their owners that things are in the shitter right now. Because I was listening to Rob Liefeld's podcast the other day. Speaking of which, we're gonna bring up Rob here. Speaking of Heidi McDonald and Rob Liefeld, Heidi said, I both hate and enable Rob Liefeld, and she blanked it out. And Rob's like, I have no issues with you, Heidi. You know this. I always enjoy our chats. And she's like, ha ha ha, I know social media is wild. He didn't like it.
Social media is wild. She's the one that posted it.
Yeah. Right. Because people get mad at her because she covers Rob Liefeld. But I know they did a show like years ago or something. Because I saw an interview with both of them in there together, like back. But
yeah, but he must have thought it was worth calling out.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing. Like weird. I have no issue. Basically, why would you?
Who knows? People are mad at us that we had never had issue with before and obsessed about it. And I'm like, I don't know what your problem is. We've always been on good terms as far as I knew.
Yeah, well, a lot of times I think it's people want to distance themselves. Here's the thing though, Rob, I listened to his podcast. He was talking about the X-Men and the X-Men being a really bad place. And it was a very good listen. I recommend anybody who loves the X-Men to listen to it. And he's 100% correct. He said all they had to do was do X-Men 97, take what worked from that and put it back in the comics because they got all that stuff from the comics. You just follow that. They gave you the blueprint and you still blew it up. He said that he's hearing from people at Marvel. They're like, oh yeah, this book's only selling 25,000. This one's only selling 30,000. He's like, he's hearing some of these books are only selling like 10, 12,000.
Ooh, that's bad.
And it's being hidden now because remember,
now that the information is being hidden, people who gave out information are moved and now departments are downsized and the information can't be put out there now. Doesn't that sound a little bit like, isn't that weird? These numbers are dwindling and all of a sudden the access is being cut off.
Yes.
It's a little weird.
It's weird. I think it's partially by design. Now, I do think that manga sales are fine. I think graphic novel sales, for the most part, are fine. But if you're trying to make a case for keeping your job at a Marvel or a DC or whatever, you don't want those numbers getting out there if they're not good. I mean, they'll brag about like, oh, Absolute Batman sold a bunch of copies, guys. Trust me, bro. So they'll brag about that because that makes them look good. It's just like Disney. You're never going to hear about the failures. They're not going to talk about the Doctor Who numbers on Disney Plus because it makes them look bad. Mm-hmm. Right. And I mean, I understand that. It's marketing. You never make yourself intentionally look bad. Right.
It's always a spin. It's
always a spin.
The angle.
But yeah. She's basically like, yeah, it's not looking too good. So I think what's going to happen, it's just all the way around with all this stuff is like all these journos, they're not going to have a place to go. And I'm not talking just Heidi or whatever. I'm talking just in general, like people that worked for these blogs. There's not going to be any place to go because there is no money in it. The only way you're going to make money at this thing is if people support you directly at this point. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. That's the truth.
I think Heidi has a better chance at that than Alyssa, obviously.
I think so, but she had a Patreon too, and she wasn't doing so hot on that.
Well, I mean, I think people, people found out about some of the shady stuff that went on behind the scenes for years, and some people, were allegedly attached to that. And even if it wasn't true, just the rumor itself was enough to cause you damages.
Well, that's just it. If if you're part of a whisper network and you know,
lack
the
of
thing
a better term, wink.
right, even if you yourself were not participating in the canceling of certain individuals, the fact that you're aware of it and enabling it and not reporting on it and just kind of turning a blind eye to it.
It rubs people the wrong way.
It rubs people the wrong way because you're going to always wonder in the back of your mind, you're always going to wonder, like, are they trying to cancel me? Like, I wouldn't, as a publisher, I wouldn't be like, yeah, let's give Heidi a bunch of money because she could just totally turn on us and try to get us canceled for nonsensical shit. Like, oh, I said this and I shouldn't have said that, whatever. Meanwhile, the entire industry, like, protects its predators. That's what's so wild. Like, oh, you say something in support of Trump, you get canceled. You're a diddler. Well, that's okay. Everybody knew for 20 years. I mean, just didn't say anything.
Oh, no,
you know?
you were, you were objectifying women, or you were like trying to sleep with women. Oh, how dare you? You know, you're just a user and a misogynist. And then the other way around is like, quick, bury it.
And it's so
I
weird
don't know.
because we talked about this before. Like, women in comics, like, we literally did a panel once. I'm not gonna name names, but we did a panel once with a woman who was at that point in time pretty popular, getting a lot of work for the mainstream publishers, and she was bragging about how she got work. She's married, bragging that she basically would flirt with the editors.
She grabbed their drinks at the bar and hand it to them, and then like basically lean in and, you know, flirt with them until they gave her jobs.
Yeah, give a sales pitch, and then.
But that was okay then to say that. Now you'd be like, you know, I mean, it would. She's the one that was guilty of it. Now they'd be like, those editors need to be canceled. You know, not her,
exactly. They would. Yeah, how dare they? How dare they object? And she would. Yeah, how dare they flirt with a married woman? And I'm like, she put herself in the position.
I know, like, I
wouldn't
have done
right?
that. I'd be like, you know,
weird.
I don't know. The whole thing's weird. And then and even if it's not true, even if it turns out that people weren't in whisper networks or things, it was just rumor. Just the association with the people you hung out with and the people that you were, you know, promoting is enough that people are like, you know.
Yeah, I think
don't believe it, even if it's not true, because of the fact that you were associating with that. So who knows?
But yep. There it is. So I think a lot of these people are going to be working other jobs because this is no longer viable for a number of reasons.
And don't shit where you eat, and then you won't have problems.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.